What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Crafters Live. I'm David Wilson, and we're back again with another Friday stream where we get together as a community and talk about whatever topic I've come up with for the day. And this stream is no exception. Is my video a little bit low compared to usual? I don't know if my head seems like it's lower than normal, but anyway, we'll figure that out as we go. So welcome back. Last week I had to take a week off because I managed to come down with some weird virus and was dealing with fever during the time where we normally would have had the stream. So sorry for that, but hey, I'm back and I'm all good aside from maybe some coughing here and there. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. Hello to Benoit, to Alex, Shubash, Purple G, Eric. Thank you all for being here so far. Let's see. What are our updates today? Well, first of all, if you are in the United States, I'm not right now, but I still have to do this. I want to just remind you, you should probably finish your taxes because they're due on Monday. I haven't finished mine yet. That's because I have an inordinately difficult situation now that I'm in 2 different countries and I switched countries in the middle of the year, last year. So I have no idea how to do my taxes correctly. So I'm just praying to the tax gods that I'm not going to get a huge bill at the end. Who knows? Hello to Case, Theopekli, Jeff, Chris, Bruno, Robert. They're due Tuesday. I thought it was the 18th. Is the 18th Monday or Tuesday? Let's see. Tomorrow's the 15th, 16th. Okay, maybe Tuesday's the right day. That's great then, because I still have to do some other things to ask for an extension one last place. I don't know, taxes are hell, man. I understand why taxes are necessary, but they're no fun. Hey, Dave. So, also, I'd like to mention, sort of related to this stream today, I guess this stream will be sort of a way for me to investigate details relating to what I'm about to tell you. I've started working on a book, probably a short book. It's not going to be something long. I've always wanted to write a book. I keep talking about it on the channel, and now I'm finally starting to sit down to do it. It's going to be about building a modern desktop environment with Sway in Geeks, but also just in general about in Linux. You will learn a lot about sort of all the components that are necessary to build a modern desktop environment that you have sort of put together all the tools yourself. You're not depending on GNOME or KDE, that kind of thing. So I'm excited about it because I think it's going to be pretty interesting and it might be pretty useful, especially if you use Geeks. So if you are interested in the possibility of having such a book, not necessarily in your hands, but at least on your computer, you could sign up on my Ko-fi page. There's a follow button here. You can just click the follow button and it might make you make an account, but if you click with email, you can sort of sign up for updates there. And I'll probably be pushing out updates about that on that page. And I plan to do an early access where I'm going to try to get some portion of the book written, and then I might put it up for some small amount of money for the people who want to sort of crowdfund the rest of the development of the book. And then once I finish it, the goal is to put it up on a website where it's free to read for everyone. But if you want to have PDF, EPUB, maybe even a .info file for Emacs, you could pay some small amount of money to get access to that. So that's just an idea I have. Let me know what you think about that. I keep wanting to try writing a book and I never get around to it, but this time it's different. I have something very specific that I want to do. Let's see. Hello to Sven Dapeng. Robert is speaking French, sorry. I'm guessing that's related to the taxes thing we were talking about. Hello to Trip. Blame Intuit, TurboTax, H&R Block. They lobby extensively to keep taxes difficult. Yes, and I'm using TurboTax, so unfortunately I'm contributing to the problem, but that's because it caused a problem, I suppose. The case says, oh shit, Dave is writing a book. Yeah, I'm gonna have you edit it. And I can pay you $1. Hello to Fikri. And the case says, if you're in the US and you make less than 76K per year, take a look at the IRS free file. Yeah, I noticed that IRS is getting some more decent web services or web applications for doing tax related things. I just signed up for some other thing they do for filing other forms electronically, which is how I managed to do the extension filing, I think. Something related to that. I don't know. My brain is now a blur with all the tax-related crap I've been having to do the last couple of weeks. Oh, well, Case says he's happy to review the book, so thank you, Case. That's nice. I appreciate that. All right. So that's it for the updates for today. So today what I want to talk about is dbus. So if you've been using Linux for a long time or a short time, you've probably heard of dbus. It's one of those components of typical Linux desktop systems that you know the name of, you've seen it written somewhere, but you've probably never really investigated it to understand what it is or what it does or why it's necessary. So today what I want to do is for all of us to sort of investigate this together, learn more about what dbus is, what capabilities it provides, and then use some APIs that are built into Emacs to interact with the user level and system level dbus services to see what kind of information we can gather about our system, or even invoke some actions on these services to achieve some goals. I don't know what goals we'll have yet. We're just going to try to experiment and see what we can find out. Alex says, does that sound for David Bus? No, it probably doesn't. But I think that it's a powerful interface for controlling your system. It gives you like another set of tools you can use, and the interface in Emacs to access it is actually pretty good. So you can script the dbus interface pretty well. I think there are a few different Emacs packages that might actually use it directly. Like for instance, there's a network manager package for Emacs, which allows you to control your networking devices. And I'm pretty sure that's using the dbus interface. There's also a user level, I guess maybe it's a user level service called Udisky that you can deal with your like mountable disks, like USB sticks or anything that you want to plug into your computer while it's running. So there's a lot of things you could do, and there's even things you can do from within Emacs to interact with these services. So it's kind of interesting to learn what you can do there. David says, all aboard the David bus. Yes, it's only for Davids, only for the Davids in the chat. Let's see. Fellow worker John says, I installed Emacs with dbus just this week. I want to build a dbus to notification center bridge for Mac OS users. That's cool. Yeah, that'd be pretty useful. All right. Hello to Arnaud. And fellow worker John says, I'm building a Decky loader plugin for Steam Deck, which will let me use dbus to provide remote control functionality from my Steam Deck to Mopedy and MPD. Sweet. Cool. Hello to Nova. All right. So let's just go through some docs, why don't we, just to see what dbus is all about. So this is the main dbus website. It's on freedesktop.org, and if you're not familiar with Free Desktop, it's basically like the standards organization, I suppose, for for the overall Linux desktop environment, because it used to be for, Xorg related stuff, but now it also encompasses Wayland as well, or at least, some facets of that. So good to check out this website, kind of scan around, see what kind of information you can find there. But this particular section is about dbus. So it tells us that dbus is a message bus system. In other words, a simple way for applications to talk to one another. And that's pretty important for a desktop system on Linux, because you have these different applications that sort of comprise your desktop environment. And how do they communicate with each other? Because you probably need to do things like tell one program to open a file dialog, or maybe tell another program to take a screenshot, that sort of thing. You need this sort of integration between applications. And the only way to do that is have some kind of API that's common to all of the different applications, so that they all have sort of a common language to speak. And that's basically what dbus is. It's a way for these various different applications in your desktop environment, or just in your general Linux system, to expose a standard type of interface that other applications can very easily access, and then ask for information or execute actions, that sort of thing. In addition to inter-process communication, dbus helps coordinate process lifecycle. It makes it simple and reliable to code a single instance application or daemon, and to launch applications and daemons on demand when their services are needed. That last part is something that you probably don't really realize when it happens, but it's something that I've seen more recently when dealing with running Flatpak applications in an environment like this. some details about that we can discuss later, but it is something that happens. Like basically you try to access a particular dbus service and it causes the related application to launch either in the foreground or the background so that it can execute this behavior. Dbus supplies both a system daemon for events such as new hardware device added, which could give you some ideas in case you're thinking about how you might be able to hook this up into Emacs. You could sort of see when hardware devices come online. Or printer queue change, and a per user login session daemon for general IPC needs among user applications, which is more important for the desktop environment aspect. So system side is mainly for what's going on with your system, your hardware, that sort of thing. And then user side is more like what's happening in your own set of applications that you run as a user. Also, the message bus is built on top of a general one-to-one message passing framework, which can be used by any two apps to communicate directly without going through the message bus daemon. So apparently it allows you to establish a private channel between two applications. Probably they just connect to each other through a pipe, and then they can send messages back and forth without having to go through the bus, which is kind of nice, I suppose. Better for performance. Let's see. Currently, the communication applications are on one computer or through unencrypted TCP/IP, suitable for use behind a firewall with shared NFS home directory. So you can communicate over the network, but it is unencrypted, which is kind of interesting. So there's information about the reference implementation and the protocol. We're not really going to look into the details of the protocol. Not really important for what we're doing. We're more interested in the various services for dbus that are available and what functionality they provide. So let's see. List of projects using dbus. That might be a pretty useful list if you want to know like what stuff uses dbus. And there's a lot of different programs. You see things like, Jabber clients, music players. What else is interesting? Instant messaging programs of different sorts. Excuse me. Network Manager, which is for managing your network devices. A lot of other really obvious things. And you can see there's a lot of applications for both for GNOME and KDE that use this because it is dbus is sort of like the standard messaging protocol for these huge desktop environments like GNOME and KDE. All right, so that's just a pretty good little list of things. I can just drop that in here in case anybody wants to check that out in the show notes afterwards. The link to what we're looking at right now, the show notes we're looking at right now, is in the description. I haven't uploaded them yet, so if you click it right now, you'll get a 404, but just letting you know that you can check it out later whenever the stream is over. Okay, so we have some overview and introduction to the basics. We may not really need to look at these very much because I think we've got a decent top level view of this, but please feel free to ask questions in the chat if you have any so far. All right, so anything else interesting? I'm just sort of scanning to see if there's anything else worth talking about. This is useful because it relates to what we'll see with the API in a minute. Objects in dbus are uniquely identified through the combination of a bus name and object path. The bus name uniquely identifies a client application connected to the bus, and the object path uniquely identifies the object within that application. So there's a bus name, which relates to an application, and then there's an object path, which gives you a way to address a specific object within an application. So this is probably for, like, if you have a music player application and you want to access like the transport control for playing and pausing, etc., or maybe you want to access the mixer for controlling volume, they may have their own different object paths. So this is something we'll see when we start looking at the API in a minute. Each application is automatically assigned a unique and effectively random bus name upon connection. Applications wishing to export objects over dbus can, and typically do, request ownership of additional well-known bus names to provide a simple and consistent location for other applications to access at runtime. Wow, that is a long sentence. So yeah, applications can create other bus names. So there's sort of like two components here. There's the bus name for the application itself, but excuse me, an application could also request another bus name, probably to say that it provides some certain standard functionality. And I'll see if it comes up. I kind of want to explain this because it is useful. But we'll take a look at that in a minute. I might need to get like a lozenge here because my throat is going to start going crazy. Case is being a good hacker and putting links in the chat in a sneaky way. You know, I think I probably shouldn't say this, but people in Twitch, you can just put links in directly because on the YouTube side, at least, the Restream bot has the wrench, which means it's an admin and it can post links. So I've noticed that people in Twitch can actually post links to the YouTube chat. Okay, fellow worker John says, I think Empress is a good example of this, the spec for music control. Yeah, that's a good point. So let's check that out really quick. Empress. All right, so here's the Empress dbus service specification. So Empress is the media player remote interfacing specification, which basically means it's like an API for controlling whatever the active media player is in any given moment. So we might learn some things just by looking at this. Now, each media player must request a unique bus name, which begins with org.empress.mediaplayer2. So that's how bus names typically look. They're just sort of like reverse domain dotted namespacing, whatever you want to call it. So it usually starts with org or com or something like that. And then it has the top level name that classifies sort of the family of things that are under this namespace. And then this is media player 2. I don't really know why, unless Media Player 2 was an application that implemented this first and then other apps started doing it. I'm so sorry for the coughing. So each application like Audacious, VLC, etc., is going to create their own bus name under that. And it says it allows clients to list available media players. So I'm guessing the way that you know this is that you search for all bus names that start with this prefix, and then you can see what players are available. And the media player must expose the org Empress media player 2 object path, which must implement the following interfaces. So interface is another concept that now comes up here. And it's basically a set of operations or a set of methods that are available on that interface. So to implement an interface, you have to implement the specific methods of that interface so that someone who knows to communicate via these two interfaces, Media Player 2 and Media Player 2.player, can call standard methods that the application should implement to provide this level of control. Excuse me. Apparently there's also signals, which is like an event. And here there's a properties changed event. I'm so sorry. You know, if all doesn't go well, I may have to cancel the stream because this is just continuing. But properties change apparently notifies clients of changes in the media player state. So seems like when you play or pause, maybe control volume, etc., this may be able to give you notifications. So if you have an Emacs package and you want to see when like tracks change on your current media player, you might be able to subscribe to the signals coming from properties changed and look for specific events that come through, and then you can show some kind of message in Emacs when that happens, or maybe run an Emacs list function or do whatever you want to do. All right. So what is in this player interface? I'm curious about that. So methods. There's like play and pause. And there's a specific pause method. So these are things you can call to affect some kind of change to the state of the application, let's say. You can call play pause to either play or pause. And then the individual play or pause functions. Next and previous, obviously, to go back and forward for tracks. So if I were to click on next, skips to the next track in the playlist. If there's no next track, then stop playback. Okay. There's also, this is a property called can go next, which will tell you whether you can go next or not. So there's ways you can read these properties to get the information. There's also parameters to methods like seek. You can say what offset you want to use whenever you seek inside of the current song. Opening URIs. And then there's a signal called seeked, which you can subscribe to get information about whenever the track is seeked. So in this case, it means that when the position is changed in a way that's inconsistent with the current playing state. I think that means when someone intentionally changed the position of the song, and it's not just like firing this all the time as the song is playing. So anyway, that sort of gives us an idea of like what a dbus interface might contain. Let's look at the properties list just to see what else they have. Playback status, playing pause or stopped. Okay, you can query that. You can check for loop status in case there's looping happening. Volume, position. There's also types. All right, so that's interesting. Unique track identifier, playback rate, which says D. I don't know what D means in this case. Let me see. There's a D bus. There's a link to the protocol specification. Come on now, where was it? Specification? No. It was on a previous page. Oh, it must be this one. There we are. D-bus specification. I'm kind of curious what kind of types we have here. Trip says D is decimal. Thank you, Trip. That sounds right to me. All right, so bus names, types. Basic types. Here we are. D is double. Okay, so it's a floating point number. X we saw before is int64. I have no idea why they would choose X for that. Maybe it's because it's an extended integer because it's 64-bit. Int32 is I. uint32 is U. Okay, these kind of make sense. No worries, Trip. Let's see. Byte is Y. Okay. So these are the basic types, effectively, and that's what you can expect from a property that's defined for a dbus service. Cool. So let's take a look at some stuff using the APIs that come with Emacs. So there is a manual for this. It's in the Emacs excuse me. Caught me. It's in the Emacs manual. Let me see if I can find it in the info system. So let's go info dbus. Here it is. Using dbus in Emacs. All right, so take a look at the overview. Interprocess communication mechanism, blah, blah. On a given machine, there's always one single system bus. On the other hand, the session bus is always related to a single user session. Client application can register itself to a so-called known name. Yeah, we figured that out already. If several applications register to the same known name, these registrations are queued, and only the first application which is registered is reachable via this name. That's interesting. If this application disconnects from the bus, the next queued unique name becomes the owner of this known name. So that's something worth knowing if you're dealing with dbus applications, is that if you have multiple applications that support the same service, if they're all launched at the same time, then you may not get the one you expect depending on which order the applications were launched in. So probably not something that happens often, but I do notice this with media player applications. Like, let's say, for instance, if I launch Spotify and then I launch MPV, actually, I've seen it the opposite way. I think if I launch Spotify, then launch MPV, MPV is the application that ends up being the one that gets used. But that may be a player control thing. I could be like talking out of, a different part of my body on that. But anyway, point being, be aware of which applications you're running that actually support the same dbus bus names, because the order that you execute those could be important based on what you're trying to accomplish. All right. An application can install one or several objects under its name. Yeah, we saw that before. You have different object paths for a bus name. Hey, Jeff, nice to see you coming from the Twitch IRC bridge. Applications might send a request to an object. That means sending a message with some data, blah, blah, blah. Signals, underlying messages emitted. All methods and signals of an object that an object supports are called an interface of the object. Interfaces are specified under a hierarchical name in dbus. An object can support several interfaces, such as an interface name could be Emacs text editor or file manager. I don't know if these actually exist or if they're just being used as an example. It'd be interesting if Emacs did provide its own dbus service. Okay, so the first thing that's interesting to do with the APIs in Emacs, which everything that I'm going to show you here is built in. You don't have to do anything special unless you have to compile Emacs with dbus support. I would imagine that in most Linux distributions or most places you would try to use this, it's going to be turned on by default, but I don't know. So if you have trouble with this, then I would check to make sure that your Emacs build has dbus. You can check that out, I think, with feature P dbus, and mine says T, which means it's there. So that's the feature P. If you see down here in the echo area, feature P dbus, that's a function I'm calling to check that feature is available, and in my case, it is. And if you run describe function, you can type dbus dash, and you'll see there's quite a few functions you can use for interacting with dbus services. So we're going to try to check those out. All right, inspection. Determining the dbus version, not so interesting, but discovering dbus names is kind of interesting because we just talked about bus names. So dbus list activatable names. This function returns the dbus service names which can be activated for a bus. Now, I wonder if that means like things that can be activated, not necessarily things that are activated. It must either be the keyword system or session. Sorry, the name of the bus. So these functions give you the ability to connect to either the session bus, which is your user session bus, or the system bus. And it's a pretty common pattern you'll see with these functions that you need to pass in session or system so that it routes the message to the right place. So let's see, dbus list activatable names. Let's just call that. Now I'm going to use ielm, this metax ielm, to go into this REPL so we can kind of see what we're looking at here. So I'm going to run this dbus list activatable names, and it gives us a list. There's dbus itself. There's a bunch of other stuff I don't really recognize. There's the org.freedesktop.portal.desktop, which is pretty fundamental for Flatpak applications, and among other things. There's like an accessibility bus right here, this A11Y. There's a Flatpak bus, font viewer. Let's see, Flatpak itself. Here's Empress, org Empress Media Player 2 player control D. I use player control for controlling media players from the command line. And a few other things. I think this is like a Bluetooth service here, org.bluez obex. So you can already see there's a few different dbus services that are accessible here. Fellow Worker John says obex is Bluetooth. Probably so, yeah. I don't really know though. I've never used it. Okay, dbus list names. This function returns all service names which are registered at dbus bus. The result is a list of strings. So this sounds pretty similar to me to what we saw before, but let's see if it gives us any different list of results. So dbus list names, right? There seem to be more here, and there are, excuse me, there are some with these weird patterns. They started to describe this in the doc somewhere, but I kind of glossed over that, so I don't exactly know what these mean. They must have some meaning. Let's see, free desktop notifications. We saw that before. There's the Network Manager applet. I think that's because Network Manager applet is running on this machine. So there's a dbus bus name that is available for that. Fade says, I guess that's a plist. Probably not, actually. This looks like a normal list. But then again, actually, you might be right. Is that versions? Huh. I suppose it could be versions for whatever the bus name is that came before, but that seems kind of a weird format to use for this. It's possible, though. Let me see. What does the documentation say? Let's go back to the info buffer. In fact, let's split the screen here, maybe. Oh, names starting with colon are unique names for the services. Can I just like refresh this or something? Why is it so wrapped? There we go. That's better. Yeah, service has a known name if it doesn't start with colon. Okay. Unique names for services. All right, fine. All right, there's a list known names. That's interesting. Let's see if we can check out what known names has in it. And I should mention, I'm doing this for the session bus this whole time. We should look at the system bus as well. Pulse Audio Server, I see here. Waybar. Waybar is the bar application I'm using here in Sway, which could be interesting to see what kind of services it exposes. I see Firefox, and it's got a nice little impenetrable ID at the end. Maybe it's my session ID in Firefox. What else? KDE status notifier. I don't know what that's running for. But there's a few different things here, obviously. Let's take a look at what we have for the system as well. I'm kind of curious as to what we'll see for the system. Okay, so there's a login service, policy kit, Avahi, org.bluez, network manager, upower, udisks. So udisks is that interface for dealing with removal media, I think. upower is power management for the system. So there are some useful things there for sure. And what else about the, let's go back to list names for system as well. Okay, so list names is gonna give you, it looks like, I'm guessing these are version signifiers. They must be version signifiers for all of these different entries. So if you see an entry like udisks and it's trailed by this list, I'm guessing that means that it's a list of versions that are exposed. Because you see the same list of service names here in known names, but when you call it just list names, it gives you back all these little strings as well. All right, list queued owners. That's kind of interesting. So let's see, dbus. List queued owners, bus, session. Let's try that org.impress.mediaplayer2. Is that it? All right, so that's nil. If I run, do I have Spotify here? Let's run Spotify. All right. So if I run that again, it still says nil. What about .spotify? Okay, so there is something there. It returns something. Trip says they're not version specs, they're anonymous services. Interesting. Like GenSims. Okay, interesting. What about MediaPlayer2.player? Nil. Okay. It's not giving me what I expect to see here for MediaPlayer2, but that's okay. Spotify. There was also the player control D. Okay. That's only about the list queued owners though, so who knows? Let me just close that out now. All right, so dbus get name owner, not so interesting. All right, so this ping could be useful. This function checks whether the service name service is registered at dbus bus. If service is not yet started, it is auto started if possible. I don't know if you'd want it to auto start something, but that's fine. Dbus ping. Bus session. Well, that's what happens when I do this. org.empress.mediaplayer2.spotify does work. Nil. But if I run Spotify again and go back here and run ping again, then it returns true. So this is a way to check whether a service is running or not. So if you write some Emacs Lisp code that is interacting with a particular dbus service and you want to make sure that it's running before you start invoking methods on it, then this is the way to do that. So this is a good thing to know. All right. Get unique name. This function returns the unique name under which Emacs is registered at dbus bus as a string. Huh. Dbus get unique name session. Okay. So this says the unique name under which Emacs is registered. So this seems to be a unique name for the process itself. I don't know how it relates to the process, but apparently that's what this is. So dbus process unique name. I'm curious what this is about. Unique connection name. Connections can have one or more bus names associated with them. A connection has exactly one bus name that is a unique connection name. The unique connection name remains with the connection for its entire lifetime. Bus names that start with a colon are unique connection names. All of the bus names are called well-known bus names. Okay. So basically what it's saying is that whenever you do that listing that we looked for before, list names, this is giving you the names of all services that are available. Some of them are well-known names. The others are unique names that are for the individual dbus buses, programs that are running currently. So it's a way to address a particular running service, I guess you could say, or program that exposes services. So that might not be something that we find useful in the short term, but maybe it has some value. Okay. So that's introspection, or inspection, I suppose you could say. Next is introspection. Fine. Knowing the details of dbus services. All right, cool. So now this is how you can inspect what a given service provides. And this explains a little bit about how this works. So dbus services publish their interfaces. This can be retrieved and analyzed during runtime in order to understand the used implementation. The resulting introspection data are in XML format, blah, blah, blah. An interface element is just one name, one attribute name. So we can say interface here. This is the introspectable dbus interface. There's also like the BlueZ manager for Bluetooth management. Children of an interface method, the element can be method, signal, and property element. So we did see that before. So it sounds like the sort of core elements of an interface are methods, signals, and properties, which we've already looked at. So there's no reason in sort of going more into depth on that. So there's a method name resolve host name. It tells you all the arguments, what their types are, also the direction of the argument. So some of these are input arguments, and some of them are output arguments. So I'm guessing what that means is that that's a way for the response of the method to give you information back. So I'm guessing each of these out arguments comes back as an object as a response. I don't know. Arg elements can have attributes name, type, and direction. Direction attribute of an arg element can be only in or out. Okay, so they're not really explaining that any further. That's cool. Signal element. Okay, so there are only out on these because this is not something that you call. It's just a sort of an event you subscribe to. So state change. There's two output arguments, state and error here, that you will get back anytime that event gets raised. Property element has no arg child element. Okay, so property is just a property. It doesn't have args, obviously, because it's just a property that you query. There's also direction read. I'm guessing that, okay, so read and write and read write. So you can actually write to a property if you wanted to. But mostly you'll probably just be reading. Okay, so function dbus introspect bus service path. Now, thing is, how do you know what paths are available for a given service that is available on the bus? So we're sort of missing a step here, in my opinion. I don't exactly know. There's another function for that. Let's just take a quick scan here and see. All right, so there's attributes. Dbus service list objects. Let's see if that comes to anything. How do you list all object paths under a dbus service? Is there a way to do this? That's not what I asked for. May not be able to do this programmatically. One thing I do know is that there's a path in the file system where you can find dbus services. So if you look in, usually it's in slash user slash share slash dbus1, but for Geeks, at least in my cases, I'm using Geeks Home. You can look at Geeks Home slash profile slash share slash dbus1, and let's see, session.d. Okay, so there's nothing in there. That's cool. Services, right? There's services and there's interfaces. So let's look at services first. And there's a bunch of files here for the different things I've installed that have services, like this player control D, font viewer service. Let's check that out. Okay, so that's very simple. It just tells it how to execute that program whenever it needs to be activated. Cool, interesting. So what about font? Okay, so nothing font here. Whoops, font. What about the Flatpak interface? These XML files actually do contain the interface specifications. Now, this folder doesn't have everything that we are expecting to see. We may need to go actually check out, let's see. On Geeks, is there a user? No, there's not a user, so what is it? Run slash current system slash profile slash share dbus. There we go. Okay. So this is where you can find the system services, I think, in Geeks. Like I said, in a typical Linux distribution that follows the, what do you call it? The file system, whatever the typical file system hierarchy is for Linux, it's going to be in user share dbus1, I think. So let's see, what's here in services? udisk stuff, system services. Okay, upower. All right, let's check out that one. FHS, yeah, that's right. File system hierarchy standard. Is that right? Okay. It doesn't tell us the information for the interfaces. I'm trying to find the objects that are being exposed, and it seems that this is not information that is exposed by these documents that we are looking at here. It's only VFS. Let's check out the OBEX server. Oh, yeah, right. Interfaces. uPower. All right, here we go. Oh, keyboard backlight. Cool. Interesting. uPower. So it tells you the interfaces. That's fine. It doesn't tell you, excuse me. Oh, object path. Is that an example? Okay. There must be a way to query for these, though. There's got to be. Because how else will you discover which ones are available? Unless the idea is you're supposed to like be calling methods that return back a list of the objects that are available for a given service. So let's see. Object. Oh, this is still the, oh. Okay, this is the actual dbus spec. Fine. Standard interfaces. Introspectable. I'm curious about that. Object instances may implement introspect, which returns an XML description of the object, including its interfaces, blah, blah. What about objects? Object manager, okay. An API can optionally make use of this interface for one or more subtrees of objects. The root of each subtree implements this interface. So other applications can get all objects, interfaces, and properties in a single method call. Okay. Okay, so what about Emacs dbus object manager? Probably I just need to call that directly, right? Oh, something is mentioning object manager here. Object manager. What else to know about interfaces? Introspect get property names. Let's check this out. Dbus, oh, come on. Dbus introspect get nodes. Get manage objects on that object manager interface trip says. Maybe so. Interface names, property names. All nodes. Service bus path. All right, so apparently a path can have nodes as well, which is kind of interesting. What about dbus object? Get all manage objects for service or path. Okay. But it's optional for a service to implement that interface. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. Okay. So let's try to like figure out something specific to do here. So if, what program do we want to try to interact with? I mean, we could do the Spotify thing, but. Oh, I have one running already. Interesting. So I want to introspect on that Spotify, but I need to figure it out. Ismail says notify. Yeah, notify actually might be useful too, because that's actually a good idea. Let me find that one. So let's list known names, right? List known names. All right, so notifications, there it is. So org free desktop notifications. So I want to figure out what interfaces are provided by this thing. Interface. Bus service path. I wonder if all interface names of service in dbus bus. Get interface names. Let's try this. Dbus introspect get interface. Let's type it correctly. Interface names. Session. Service. And I'm going to use /org/free desktop /notifications. I think that's how it's supposed to be laid out. All right, so we did get something here. So there's dbus properties, introspectable, peer. Apparently there's a Dunst interface in here. Dunst is my notification app, which is cool. And then there's the org free desktop notifications. So then there's also a function. Oh, Elijah says you can probably get the path / for some of those. That would be interesting if it did work. Let's see if that does anything. Okay, yeah, this one didn't actually work like that, but that's okay. That's a good thought. So there's also a get interface function, right? We saw dbus get interface. Return the interface of service. The return value is an XML object. Okay, so what we're gonna do is org.free desktop.notifications, which sounds kind of redundant, but I don't think it is. All right, cool. So we did get an A-list form of the XML response. So we have methods. Let's see, get capabilities, notify. Notify, I think, is the one that I want to try to use. That has arguments like app name, which is an input parameter, replaces ID. I don't know what that is, but that seems to be an unsigned integer. App icon path, summary, body, actions, hints, timeout, ID. Oh, that's okay. ID is an output. So summary. What else do we need here? So let's let me try something real quick. I'm gonna go over to. Well, no, let's just go back into IELM. Oh, I'm in IELM. Okay, whatever. So let's see how we can call a function, right? Let's call a method. Methods and signals. Oh, detecting object paths and interfaces. Okay, maybe I should look at that, right? Dbus, introspect, get node names. Let's try that really fast and just see what we see. Dbus, introspect, get node names. I didn't expect that to be what it was called. Session org.free desktop dot type dot right desktop dot notifications, and then /org/free desktop /notifications. Nothing. Whatever. Okay, so method and signal. Get method names. Don't need that. I want to invoke a method. I think this is the inspection part. So let's go back to overview or top. Synchronous methods. Dbus call method. So let's try that. Dbus call method. Let's see, bus, which would be session. Service, which is org.free desktop notifications. Path is /org/ whatever. Interface, once again, org.free desktop notifications. And then method is notify. And let's see, optional timeout, rest args. So args is the rest of this. Now, how does args work in this case? Remaining argument args are passed to methods as arguments. They are converted into dbus types. Okay. Example. Good. Get key field, open PGP. Simple name. So is it the order that we're looking at here? Simon says there's a way to do get all nodes from the root. We should try that and see. I wonder if these are ordered then, because that would be a little bit annoying. App name. Can't use the name of the parameters. Nidish says, do you think that ChatGPT can help you speed this up? Yes, but we're not going to bother with that right now. Okay. Just a little example there. That's fine. Yeah, it's not telling me whether these are positional arguments, but I'm getting the sense that that's the case. So system crafters. Also app name replaces ID. Have no idea what that's supposed to be. It's a number, so I'll just pass 0 for that. App icon, which is a string. Okay, and then summary probably is what we want then. Summary and body. So let's give that a shot. So 0, empty string, summary, body. Let's see what that does. Let's see. No such interface or free desktop notifications on object at path. Did I make any typos? Notifications. But we just did the introspection on that, and we got that back, right? Let's try this. Okay, so there's org. Interesting. Free desktop. So Simon's suggestion does seem to be working for getting the object paths, notifications. Okay, so there's just nothing under that. So that must be the only path. The path is not capitalized, is it not? I think it is, but... So let's see. We found this from the interface is org.freedesktop.notifications. We used getInterface for org.freedesktop.notifications on that object path. And that's the interface name. So I must have screwed that up somehow. Org free desktop notifications. Org free desktop notifications. Desktop. All right. Another one. Type of message. Sus. Okay. So it wants me to put in all of the parameters, it seems. Yes. We have Among Us jokes coming now. Elijah says, "Oh no, I'm wrong." Yeah, it's fine. We're all figuring this out together right now, apparently. All right, so we have SUSSS, and we're missing ASASVI. I don't know what those mean. I mean, obviously they correspond to the parameters. Oh, the ASV is hints. I'm guessing that's an array, but I don't know how you're supposed to pass that in. So what was the other thing here? Timeout, okay. Remaining arguments, args, are passed into method as arguments. I don't like the fact that you have to pass everything. Is there a way to say, like, just use the default value? Let's see. Compound types is always represented as a list. The car of this list can be the type keyword. Okay. Array is optional because this is the default. Oh, well, here's an example of exactly what we're trying to do, apparently. Thank you, documentation. So, notify, application name, Emacs, no replacement of other notifications, no icon, summary, and then there's this is just calling normal format. Okay, and then array for no actions. Cool, let's just copy what they're doing. So it's array, that's how I understood it. Array signature, SV, fine. Default timeout. Do we need that? Okay. Anyway, we see now that there's a notification that gets shown. So we were able to call that notify method on the dbus interface for org.freedesktop.notifications, which is kind of cool. Let me throw that into the show notes, just so that I have it for later. It's there. Okay, cool. So this is basically how it works, is you just have to figure out how to invoke the functions correctly or the methods correctly. It seems a little unfortunate that you have to figure out the right way to call everything because the parameters to methods or the arguments to methods seem to be required. I don't know if there's a way to make them non-required, but at least in this case, we had to do this. So you might have to become kind of like a minor expert in dbus to use this effectively, but it's still useful if you really want to do some system management from within Emacs, I think. Okay. So let's see. Can we do a little bit of investigation then? We found that you can use this get node names for a service. I kind of want to check out what's inside of this org.impress.mplayer2 or was it media player 2 .spotify. Okay, so we got org, impress, media player 2. All right, so there is a namespace there, and there was another thing that we used for what was it? Let's get that out of our face. There was another function that we were using before that gave us the interfaces that are available. Get interface. So let's do the same thing here. Whoa. Or what was it? Get interface names? Is that what it was? Get interface names. All right, cool. Session org.impress.media player 2. Let's try this and see what happens. org/impress/media player 2. Nothing. Okay, fine. Let's do this instead. .spotify. All right, cool. We got something here. So the interfaces that are exposed are the media player 2 interface and the media player 2.player interface, which is cool. Elijah says you might want to start the player control daemon and talk to that as your Impress player. Acts as a proxy for the most recent active. Yeah. Let's try to use it directly first. I'm just kind of interested to see what happens here. All right, so we have this get interface function now. Dbus. Well, let's do this. Control R. No, Control R doesn't work. Oh, that's no good. Get interface, session. Set. Okay, yeah. Let's try this. Okay, and that's what we saw before. So this one actually seems a bit easier to manage. I don't know what it's going to play. I don't even know if you'll hear it, to be honest, but I really don't want to get copyright striked. We should be able to see. So where is the... Oh man, this thing is just so blown up. Okay, let me turn the volume all the way down so we don't have to deal with that. Okay. And nothing is playing at the moment. So I'm going to try to run this play method, okay? So let's use the dbus call. In fact, right here, dbus was a call method. All right, so we got Spotify, media player 2, player. The method is, so we need these three parameters, and then we need the method name, so play, right? And it doesn't take a parameter, so it should just work. Okay, so I think it did start playing a song that I had there playing the last time. So that's cool. Now I can also go back and hit pause. And it should be paused. Cool. And if I say next, it should give me the next track. Yeah, so it does actually work. You can basically control this media player through that interface. As Elijah mentioned, there's also the player control program. If you haven't heard of player control, which, you know, this is not really that useful for what we're talking about right now, but just in case you haven't heard of it, player control is a command line program that can control your active media player through this Impress interface. And it can be useful if you are setting up your own desktop environment or using like Sway or i3 or any other kind of sort of lightweight window manager like that. And you want a program you can use to easily control your media player. Player control is a good option for that. And effectively what you do is just call player control, play, pause, whatever on the command line. You can just shell out to that program, and then it will use this dbus interface to control your active media player. So it apparently provides its own interface that we can try to use its behavior for controlling other media players. The reason why you would want to do this if you're trying to automate your media player through Emacs is that if you use different media players, like let's say you use Spotify, maybe you also use MPV, maybe you use something else, Amarok, I don't know, who knows. If you use multiple media players for different purposes, then maybe you want one central way to control the playback on any of them. So player control is a better interface for that, and it apparently has its own, its own interface that you can use. So its own dbus interface you can use. So let me actually try to find that really quick. Do we have all our stuff? Good. So I want to use, whoops, man, I did it again. I just want to hit Control-C to get out of the current prompt. All right, so dbus list, what was it? Can I not? What is happening? I may have to kill this buffer. All right, dbus, there we go. Dbus list known names, session. What is it? Player control. Wasn't here. What about list names? No. I had seen that somewhere. I don't know where it was. Is it the activatable names? It might be that. All right, so player control. All right, there it is. Cool. So this is actually a really good example because this is how through dbus you can actually invoke a program by trying to invoke a method on the interface. So let's use the same approach we were using before to introspect into, oh really? I lost all my history. Fantastic. So what was it? dbus introspect interface. Oh, come on. Get interface names. Session. What was the other stuff for that? There we go. Bus service path. All right, so the bus is this. And let's just go with a slash, right? No, nothing. Shubash says, do we do this for productivity when using tiling managers like Sway and Qtile? Well, I mean, you should have dbus running for your user session when you're using Sway or Qtile. It doesn't happen by default. In fact, you usually have to use a program called dbus session or dbus launch to wrap your call to Sway or to Qtile or whatever window manager you're using to make sure that you have a dbus user session set up before you start trying to use these things, because otherwise it doesn't work. All right. org/impress / media player 2. So I can't type. There we are. Okay, cool. So we do have everything. The same things as before. Player. All right, so we can do the same thing. dbus call method session org.impress. I won't tell you this all again. And then /org. And then we want the interface name, which in this case is org.impress.mediaplayer2.player. And then we'll say next. And let's see if this works. Hey, it worked. So that's invoking Spotify to play the next track via the player control dbus interface. And that was not actually running, as we could tell by looking at dbus list names session. Player control. Oh, it's there now, probably because it got invoked as a result of me running that that method, but it wasn't there before. So, or at least I don't think it was there before. Let's go up to the top here. Okay, it was only in the activatable list, and then it showed up later in the list of names after we launched it. All right, so that's pretty useful. I mean, it shows you how you can launch a particular dbus service just by calling a method, even if it's not running already. Also, if you're wanting to do media control, then this is one way to do it via the dbus interface for player control D, or even just Spotify or whatever application you're using. And I think we were able to sort of understand what's available in dbus services now to some degree. I'm curious to see what's happening in the system buses. So let's try to look at the uPower interface. I'm curious if we can actually get anything out of that. So dbus list names, uPower is in there, and then dbus introspect. So what is introspect by itself, I wonder? Bus service path. Okay. Get interface names. System. That's org.freedesktop.upower. Yeah, what was that we saw before? Was it get object or get node names, right? Is it node? Node names. Okay, so there it is, /org. We're just sort of cruising through here to see what the actual object tree is. Okay, so there's devices, which I wouldn't have known about. All right, so that gives us a list of devices that it has. Like, you can see my battery device, my display device, the line power when my computer's plugged in. I don't know why it has a Wacom battery here. That's interesting. But that's cool. So it gives us some information about devices. What about interfaces that are available on this path? So get interface names. What about on uPower itself? Okay, there's some interfaces here. What about get interfaces? Or what is it? Get interface, okay. uPower org.freedesktop.upower. So what is in this interface? All right, so there's some stuff in here. There's a method, enumerate devices. There's a get display device. That's kind of interesting. And annotation. Okay, so there's only an argument that's an output. I could try that, call get display device. Dbus call method. Actually, let's take the previous thing and then manipulate it a little bit. Call method. Get display device, right? Oh, okay. So it just gives me a link to the device itself. Get node names, devices. Display device is there. Display device. All right, so there's nothing else under that. Now, is there a way to get the properties of something? Dbus introspect. Oh, it's still trying to play music here. That's funny. We can kill that now. Get property. Excuse me. Get property names. So let's try that. Bus service path interface. Let's do this. And then we don't know what interface it is. It needs an interface at the end. So if I were to ask it for the interfaces for that path, will it tell me? All right. Org free desktop uPower device. So let's try the property names before and drop this interface in. And then here's a list of properties for the display device. Vendor model serial is rechargeable. Battery level, that doesn't seem to be related. So what about vendor? Let's see if we can read the property for vendor. So dbus property handler get property. Okay, tell me something about it. Bus service path interface property, cool. So get property. And this is the device, and ultimately I want the vendor. Okay, it doesn't tell me anything there. What about model? All right, so for this device, it's not giving me anything. What if I change to a different device? Like, let's say my battery BAT0. I think that's the one that I'm using. So go right here to devices. Okay, so something actually did come out of that. That's cool. And then we want the vendor also. Let's check out the vendor. Vendor is Cell Expert. Okay, so that is giving us some information about that device at least, which is good. So yeah, I mean, I think we've sort of figured out the pattern that you can use for cruising around on the interface of a given dbus service and understand what stuff is available to be able to query information about them. We could also query, what is it? The time to full. What is that? Let's check about, what? There you go. Time to full. 0. Okay. Well, my battery is definitely not full. What is the level? Online battery level. Let's try that out. One. That doesn't sound right. Capacity, charge cycles, energy. What is energy? 49.2. That looks about right. Okay, Ismail asks a good question. Can you drive Emacs from the outside? Did we actually see an Emacs service? We did see some unnamed services. Let's take a look at the dbus manual for Emacs and see what else it's got. Alternative buses, signals, errors and events, monitoring messages. Huh. So you can just snoop on the message bus apparently. That might be interesting. Register monitor. Okay, so it goes to a buffer. I like that. Dbus register monitor session. Now, if we go to the dbus, what is it? Where is it? Where is it? Dbus. It's not in that buffer. Session private. Okay, so there's the dbus monitor handler. Ah, come on. Go to dbus.el. King of Bones says, seeing this capability has almost convinced me to learn Emacs. That's the thing people don't realize about Emacs, is it's more than just an editor. It's an environment. It's a programming environment, and it has its own APIs for doing things that are pretty useful and interesting. So yeah, it's not just, you know, the place where you write your codes. You can automate your system with it. Trip says there's a good Stack Overflow answer showing how to drive Emacs from dbus. So Stack Overflow Emacs dbus. Connecting to dbus from Emacs. Let's see. Control Emacs with dbus. How do I use Emacs dbus interface? Get out of here. Oh, that's not what I was looking for. Okay, Emacs dbus service. No, not finding it. Oh, that's the one? Really? Oh, well, let's actually look at that. Does that really exist? Let's check out this org.gnu.emacs and see what it has in it. So dbus introspect. What is it? Get node names, right? Session org GNU Emacs, and then we're gonna go for the slash. Nothing there. Hold on. You can register methods. So you can actually expose a dbus service from Emacs, which is kind of an interesting way to use this capability. So let's say, ooh, that's actually kind of interesting. Because there are certain things like the XDG desktop portal. Let me show you this real quick. So this is the desktop integration portal. It's probably not the right thing to do for this, but yeah, you can register services from eList. Cool, yeah, that makes sense. So XDG desktop portal is effectively a set of interfaces that are for things like file access, opening URIs, printing, and others. They're used by things like Flatpak applications, because in a Flatpak app, typically it's sandboxed, which means it shouldn't have access to your home folder or to your applications that are running in your normal environment. So to do things like open up a file dialog to access files in your local system, or to capture your screen for screen sharing or things like that, you have to make a request through a dbus interface. And XDG Desktop Portal is kind of like the clearinghouse for all of these APIs that you would need for wiring up a Flatpak application into your existing desktop environment. So why am I telling you this? Well, it seems you could probably expose some of these APIs via the, what was it that we just saw? There's a dbus register method function that you could use potentially for that. So if you wanted to be super cheeky, you could possibly implement a dbus interface like XDG Desktop Portal, or the interfaces that it provides, and do it from within Emacs. So there's a bunch of things in here like email, portal for sending email. That's something you could wire up so that you could have it try to send email through Emacs instead of whatever it does. Now, there may be better ways to do this, but this is something you can obviously try to do if you wanted to. If you were to register this email method from within an Emacs, then you could call a function like mu4e compose or whatever function is necessary for that to start up a new email from a link that you clicked inside of a Flatpak application. So that's one possible use of this. What else? Notifications, obviously. And I think people have actually created notification daemons in Emacs. What is it? Emacs Notification Center. There was some, yeah. Emacs Desktop Notification Center. Probably what this package is doing is registering dbus methods for that interface. Let's just check it out. org.freedesktop.notifications. So here's the XML schema for that, obviously. Interesting that, okay, here it is. Dbus register method session. It's got a service name, path, interface. It's registering the notify app method and it's binding it to this EDNC notify function. So this is an example of how Emacs could implement a well-known service for the free desktop environment protocols so that Emacs can play the role of something that you would normally use a different application for, like Dunst or whatever. It could be anything else like that. Fellow worker John says you could use a service to do org protocol type things as well. Yeah, you could definitely do that. Trip says, note the bit at the end about not calling it from the same session unless you use async, though. That makes sense. So I think it's in this thing. We'll link this in the show notes. Let me just go back there and drop that right in. Let's put that right here. So where did it say async? Oh, was there actually an example of that here? No, that's calling it. Okay. Async. If you have to call and register a method within the same Emacs instance, you can use dbus call method asynchronously. Okay. Oh, that's for calling. I see. Oh, that's kind of weird though. Why would you register a dbus method in Emacs and then call it from within the same Emacs session? Why not just call an Emacs Lisp function directly? I guess if you're trying to test something, maybe? That could make sense. If you're writing like unit tests for your dbus interface that you'd create inside of Emacs, maybe. Cool. But anyway, point being, it is very possible to create dbus services inside of Emacs as well, which you could go pretty far down the rabbit hole with that, I believe. Let's see. So this is EDNC aspires to be a small but flexible drop-in replacement for standalone daemons like Dunst. How hard would it be to install this right now? I mean, it seems to be pretty standalone. Basic usage. Okay, so you can test it out by running... oh, I should also say, you don't have to use dbus directly to raise notifications from within Emacs. There's actually another package that's built into Emacs called notifications where you can do that manually. So if I were to go into the scratch buffer, paste this right in, require notifications, and then I run this notifications notify function that comes in Emacs. You can see that it actually launches a notification using Dunst, which I have there. So that's one way you could test this if you were to use such a program like EDNC or package. Let's see. How do I set it up? Okay, execute EDNC mode. Straight use package. EDNC. There we go. Let's just give this a shot and see what happens. EDNC mode. Cool. So now if I run this same function, it should show up in Emacs instead. Ah, doesn't. What if I kill Dunst? Proced Dunst. Am I selecting the right one? Dunst? Hello? Is it the right one? No, Dunst. Right there. Hey. Thank you. All right, it's gone now. Let's try that again. Viewing desktop notifications. Yo, no, that's not right. Let's go back to, what is it? Normal mode. Yeah. So where is... How did they get displayed? Trip says, if you're implementing a well-known dbus service in Emacs and have another eList package that calls that well-known service, then you might hit the blocking call. Yeah, that's for sure. Captain Nobeard says, hey, Captain Nobeard. Oh my, dbus and eList, a non-favorite topic combined with a favorite one. Yes. In the log buffer. Oh, okay. EDNC notification. I don't see that function. Where is that? Something's not right here. Find library. EDNC. EDNC notifications. So is this not interactive? Is that what's going on? Oh boy. All right, so they showed up, but they're not being displayed. So how do they get displayed? Presentation functions. Format notification, simplify all, okay. Packages like this need like a really quick snippet that you can just copy and paste at the start, because I don't want to have to like read this whole thing just to make something work. Notification presentation functions. Notification presentation functions. Update log buffer. Okay, well, I didn't see it in the log buffer, did you? EDNC log. Okay. EDNC log. There it is. Okay. Now, let's go back to Scratch. What? Title. Cool. So that does work. Let's go back into Spotify and let's move to the next song. And you can see that the notification actually did go into Emacs, and you can see the icon for the album. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it actually does work. It's just, you know, not... I had to actually read. I don't want to read. I just want you to tell me in big, bold letters what to do. Which is not the right way to be. But obviously, whenever you're on a live stream, you're trying to get something working fast, you don't want to have to read too much. That's fine. But that's cool. It works. It just shows you that it is possible to create a dbus service inside of Emacs and basically implement whatever interface you want. So it opens up a lot of doors, I think, for making monitoring interfaces or interacting with programs that you use typically. A lot of programs have dbus interfaces that make it possible to interact with them. There's also this whole thing I was showing you before about the free desktop portal stuff. Screenshot. Can I tell it to take a screenshot? Let's see if I can call this thing. Let's go back to IELM. I'm kind of curious if it will work. I have a program called Grimshot installed. I don't know that it actually exposes a dbus interface. It might not. Let me check. So GNU store Grimshot. Grim. All right. Share, man. No, I don't see any dbus files here. That's the way you would know. Hey. That was not smart. Grim? What else? What else would be interesting to actually run from Emacs? Settings interface, huh? Okay, close or closed. That doesn't help. Implementations. Wallpaper. Is anything... I wonder if Sway does that. Let's take a look real quick. Let's go to Geeks Home /profile /share dbus interfaces. Okay, so we got some portal interfaces here. Some impls also. Curious what's in this impl here. It's an email implementation, but who is providing it? Oh, there's like Qt stuff, cute stuff. So it must be the KDE portal, which I probably should take out of here. Camera, screenshot. So this is just an interface definition. I don't know, like, it doesn't tell you which programs may actually implement these. Okay, here's some impl stuff. GTK service, permission store service. Come on now. All right, session.conf, what's in here? Is there an etc folder here? Oh, there's another dbus folder, system.d. Okay, so that's not really that useful. Okay. So probably we don't have anything that interesting. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of programs installed on here, so that's probably why we don't have anything cool to experiment with. In fact, I think I'm doing the wrong thing. Elijah says, my understanding was that regular programs generally don't implement the portal interfaces themselves because the portals are intended to also handle access control. Yeah, well, there are a few different major portal implementations. There's the one for GTK, which is probably the one you want in most cases. There's one for GNOME, which really is for if you're using like the full GNOME desktop. Same for KDE, I think. There's one for LXQT, and there's one for Pantheon, which is for the elementary Linux distribution. Then there's the WL Roots one, which is really useful if you're using a Wayland compositor and you want to do things like screen sharing. I don't think it's needed for taking screenshots, but it's definitely needed for screen sharing. Like if you go into your browser and you want to do like a meeting and it needs access to like your audio devices and cameras and stuff, and also screen sharing, you definitely need to have the WLR one running. Maybe the cameras one is not necessary, but definitely screen sharing, the WLR desktop portal implementation is needed. So yeah, you don't really see them very often. There's kind of like, kind of monolithic implementations for all these various services. But I think that an individual service could be implemented by Emacs if you wanted it to be, but maybe it's not a good idea. I don't know. So let's take a look really quickly and see IELM dbus list names session. I'm just curious what else is. Wow, Stack Overflow and Regex Max Matcher. What happened? Okay, list known names. Let's get all these others out of here. Known names. Again? What's happening? That's really strange. Okay, I guess I'll kill this IELM. Sessiono. Do I have to restart Emacs? Is that what's happening here? What did I do? I really made it upset. List known names. Okay, so there we go. Mount point, status notifier, watcher, pulse audio server. That's kind of interesting. Portal documents. What could that be? It takes real talent to bork Emacs that badly. Yeah, well, I was doing a bunch of random stuff in here, so who knows? Oh, I don't want to blame it on EDNC, but that's the last thing I did before I started seeing those errors, so who knows? Okay, so dbus list, it's introspection, right? Introspect, get all nodes, session. Okay, tell me what the args are. Path. Give me a break. Let's go. Hey, that's nice. Okay, so get all nodes on the slash did give me the tree here. So let's also take a look at get interface names. be nice to have like some kind of graphical explorer that does all this for you, so you don't have to just write out all these functions yourself. Org free desktop portal documents. All right, so there's a documents interface. File transfer. There's also file transfer. Okay. Org.free desktop.portal.documents. What? Did I not type that correctly? Org free desktop portal documents. Oh, it's got a capital D. It's case sensitive, people. There we go. Lookup, delete, revoke permissions, grant permissions, add named full, add full. What does all this mean? Get mount point. Oh, okay. Well, let's call that and see what happens. Dbus. Oh, no, let's do this first. Dbus call method. Okay. So that must be a string, and it's not a string. I don't know. What happens? How do I do that? Is there a way? Char string. Char to string. Chars to string. Map car. Yes, it's a path. Run user 1000/doc. Okay, what's in there? Run user 1000/doc. Wow. There's stuff here. Oh. Is this like downloads? Huh. That's pretty weird. Never seen that before. So I guess this interface must handle these documents that are hidden in this folder. So if you don't know about this, run/user/ whatever your UID is. This is your XDG. What is it? XDG data. Come on. XDG. Oh, come on, man. Inv. XDG data. No, not the data home. Runtime dir. XDG runtime dir. So it's basically a folder where all your user session stuff gets written out while everything's running. And you can get a lot of information just by kind of cruising through this folder path and see what's written here. So programs that are aware of the XDG desktop specification, I don't know if that's really what you call it, will use this XDG, what was it called? Runtime dir to store kind of like their runtime information for applications. You'll often see things like pipes here. So there's like the dbus pipe, I think. There's the pipewire pipe. Sway has its own pipe socket. Wayland itself has a pipe. So the pipes that are used for communicating between processes that don't use dbus are often here. And things like pulse audio session, there's a pipe there for native, it seems like. Dconf, a lot of stuff. So that's also something I want to kind of dive more into and explain in this book I'm talking about, because it's kind of a core part of what a quote unquote modernish Linux desktop is built on. So how did I get there again? I think it was that whole desktop thing we were just looking at. Yeah. I found the get mount point. I figured out that it was in run user 1000 doc. Can I concat that? Yeah. Can I call concat? Is concat for strings? Come on. Or you got all the arguments and make it what? Yeah, okay. So let's just do that. Huh. Interesting. Can I do that with just the plain old numbers? Kind of doubt it. Haha, okay, that works. Cool. String join map care string sequence. Cool. The string do it itself? Probably not. Nope. Anyway, just concat apparently can take a list of integers that are character codes and turn it into a string. But that right there is interesting. I don't know what character that is. Okay, well, I mean, that's pretty much all I had. Anybody have questions about any of this stuff? I mean, there's a few of you in the chat who clearly know some stuff about dbus. So thank you to Trip and Elijah and to Ismail for throwing some clues out there. I'm trying to think if there's any other thing that would be useful to check. What I might do really quick is try to null terminator, maybe. I thought that would be just /0, but maybe that's what it looks like. So, org. Let me find my show notes. Projects, sites, system crafters, content, live streams, April. Okay. Let me just write down some quick thoughts based on things we've done so far. Do I have all that? I think I have a good little set here. All right, listing known dbus services in the user session. Hey, that's not right. All right. Then finding all nodes for a service. Oh, that was wrong. Get all nodes session slash. It has to have the slash at the end. And then get interface names. And then to describe a particular interface. And then we didn't do any method invocations here. Dbus call. Oh, we did right there. Cool. All right. Jeff says it's a null character. The last character in your list is 0. Okay, cool. Good to know. I didn't know that's how it was represented. I'm trying to think if there's anything else interesting that came up this week that's worth discussing really quickly. I haven't really been doing a whole lot of system crafting in this past week. The one thing I have been doing is trying to fix my my greetd configuration, because I've recently changed the way that I log into my Geeks environment. I was just using a plain old TTY at first, and it makes it very nice because you could just use your normal bash login setup to just, set everything up, and then you just run sway from the command line. But then I started using greetd instead, and it caused a couple of issues for me. One is that these XDG desktop portal dbus services no longer operate correctly, and I don't know exactly why, but I think that the user level dbus session environment variable, which is, where is that, eShell dbus session bus address. This environment variable wasn't being set whenever sway gets launched, because of the way that greetd is working. So sway doesn't have access to my session bus, which means that whenever the individual portal functions or portal programs get launched, like the WLR portal, it doesn't have access to the session bus and it crashes or it doesn't operate correctly. So some weird stuff going on. I gotta like dig into it a little bit further, but I think that some of the stuff that's in Geeks right now for kind of like a simpler alternative to eLoginD and using one of the thicker login managers, like let's say, GDM or something. There's stuff that you can use for that, but it's not set up totally right. And it takes a little bit of extra effort for that. I'm trying to decide how much is worth it, because I'm okay just using a normal TTY to log in to Sway. Like to just log in using a normal login prompt at the console, the terminal, and then run Sway from there. I don't have a problem with that. But if I want to tell other people how to make a modern desktop environment, I kind of need to figure out how to have a graphical login screen. So I need to have an answer for this question. Fellow worker John says, I've been spending effort after work this week to build an Atlassian Confluence to org mode conversion tool. I'm using an XML style sheet to convert Atlassian XML to org. I've managed to build a walk algorithm to build a page hierarchy. This weekend, I want to finish the style sheet design. That sounds pretty complicated. I don't know how complicated the Confluence APIs are, but sounds pretty cool though. If you can do all of your project management tasks inside of Emacs, it might be nice. Anything else interesting? That's pretty much it. I haven't really been doing a lot of stuff in Emacs. I mean, I've been using Emacs for day to day for everything, but like, hacking on the configuration, not so much. There's one package that we ran into a couple weeks ago on one of the streams that I do want to try. I don't remember what it's called at the moment, but it allows you to pull things out of make files, like different targets out of make files, and like give you a menu for it to run it in Emacs compile, which is kind of nice. I don't know if I'd even be able to find it right now if I wanted to. But yeah, not a whole lot going on. That's the thing. Like if you have spent a lot of time, setting up your Emacs configuration and it works for you, then you don't really have to do a whole lot after a while. So I don't know. You'd think that I would be like trying to, declare configuration bankruptcy, but it just works a lot of the time. Some things aren't working right now. That's a different problem. Geeks related problem. Jeff says there is a point where Emacs just works and you don't need to hack on the configuration. Yeah, I think that's kind of a good place to be, because it means that you understand the tool well enough that you are able to leverage it effectively for all the things that you need to do, at least presently. And there's nothing else that's bothering you enough that you have to spend time tweaking the config. So Jeff says, then when you get there, it's time to delete it all and start over. Well, it can be fun. I don't know if Case is still here, but I know that Case has done like, 8 or 9 iterations of just starting over with Emacs config. With the advent of Emacs 29 coming out pretty soon, I think it's worthwhile to consider the possibility of rewriting your Emacs configuration using as much stuff that's in the box in Emacs as possible, because now you'll have things like tree sitter, eglot, use package, and better general completion system interfaces inside of Emacs to start with. So you might need less things or less community packages compared to the past. I kind of want to give that a shot at some point. I sort of did that already a little bit, I think. But I need to make a better go at it, because I think that there's a lot that can be done without having to resort to community packages. Spencer says, sorry, I'm late. Well, I don't know. You may have 1 minute here. Waffles Enjoyer says, system crafters equals craft systems equals craft beer. I don't really get a chance to drink craft beer so much anymore. I'm just drinking whatever is available here in Greece. It's not bad, I drink a brand called Fix. Pretty good. John Stone says, I already rewrote for 29. That's cool. Jeff says, crafted Emacs v2 alpha has a decent configuration using nothing but built-in stuff for Emacs 29. Yeah, I need to go check that out. Probably, I don't know. Jeff, should we make it a target that maybe next week we can show off some new crafted Emacs stuff in the stream? Trip says, but now I have a rockin' Blackpink theme. Trip also says, I spent my 50th birthday starting over on my SpaceMax config. It's my second SpaceMax config and like my dozenth Emacs config. Well, happy 50th birthday. I just had my 40th, so we're in the same realm. Jeff says, some will still want to include Corfu et al. Yeah, well, that's for sure. Kay says, I've bankrupted 9 times. Yes, I was just saying you bankrupted 8 or 9 times. So apparently I remember that correctly. Nova says, I've gone and reworked my Doom Emacs config, removed some stuff, and just trying to get it all organized again. Yeah, mine never is very organized. And I've done a few different config rewrites in my repo, that's in my .files repo, that it's kind of obscured from public view because it's in a branch. And it's a total mess. I never have the time to spend to fully finish what I was trying to do. So yeah, I need to do that one day. It's hard to find the time to just focus on doing all the things I need to do to prettify my configuration and get it into a place where people can actually look at it on a website again. All right, well, I think that that's going to be it for this week. I'm pretty happy with the stream. I think we learned some stuff. That was cool. So thank you all so much for being here today. Really appreciate it. Hope you all have a great weekend. Like I said before at the start of the stream, I'm thinking about writing a book about, I've started writing a book about modern desktop environment configuration with Sway and Wayland, specifically on Geeks, but just in general on Linux. And if you want to follow that, go to my Ko-fi page and click this follow button. And I'm going to be doing like an early access on the book. So if you want to hear more about that, you can follow there and just use your email address to sign up, and then you'll get notifications about that. So you should feel free to do that if you're interested. And I'll also be saying things about it on the streams too, whenever that happens. But those of you who really want to be in the know, you can just sign up there to follow. So anyway, thanks a lot for being here today. We'll be back again next week. Maybe we'll talk about crafting Emacs v2 alpha or beta or whatever it is. We'll see how that goes. And until then, have a great weekend and happy hacking. We'll see you.